early in life, you'll find that people begin to give up on their dreams, their purposes, their hopes, really give up on the good life. Welcome to the Good Life Podcast, where we talk about the search for significance, the pursuit of purpose, and the challenges of our culture. I'm Carl Nichols, and I'm here with Daniel Foster today, and we are honored that you would join us on this journey to finding the good life. Daniel, how are you today?
I am doing great. I'm doing really good. I've been looking forward to this podcast for quite some time now, and I want you to let our listeners know what was your thought process behind this podcast?
So, about 4 years ago, I really began to wrestle with this idea that so many people are on this search to find significance or find purpose. And there was these competing things in our culture or in the news or on social media or wherever that kind of drew our attention and made us chase things that ultimately led to emptiness, a lack of hope. And so we did a series here at our church in South Atlanta, Relevant Church, called The Good Life. And It literally just took off. And then we did a second series as a follow-up to that later. And about 2 years after that, we turned it into a discipleship conversation where we really took people on a journey to dealing with some stuff to help them find the good life and understand what it really means to find wholeness, healing, and live life on purpose.
Wow.
So
that's awesome. I know it has impacted my life. And even in my own personal life, trying to find what we would call the good life, what makes life good. And I've fallen short. I've come up empty, and I felt like I'm chasing. It's a constant chase. And so this has benefited me. And so I'm really hoping that this will benefit those that are also listening.
Well, I know you've challenged me in this process and people have asked in fact, we left a prayer time this morning and somebody said, where are you going with this podcast? What's happening? And it's come from people like yourself and many friends of mine and people that I would even consider mentors saying, put your content. You have so much to offer. You have so much to say. And you know this, being a pastor, being a leader, sometimes you feel like the things that you talk about, people don't care about. But people talked about Julie and I, my wife, who've now 23 years.
Congratulations.
And my boys are 15 and 11, Jason, Trey. And just how did we get where we're at? Not that everything's perfect, but how are we living life and how have we learned to live this thing called the good life? And people have been saying, will you please put some stuff where you can listen on an ongoing basis, where you have content to go back to beyond just talking on Sunday mornings? Because as you know, thousands of people show up on Sunday mornings, but then how do I engage on a personal level throughout the week? And so that's really where this birthed out of. And we're going to be hitting some fun topics, some controversial topics, and we'll probably get canceled along the way. So
I'm excited. Let's jump right on in.
Good. So I thought today, I don't know about you, but you deal with students a lot, and early in life.
Sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. Early in life, you'll find that people begin to give up on their dreams, their purposes, their hopes, really give up on the good life. Mm-hmm. And over the course of time, I have found there's really 3 reasons that people kind of give up on the good life. And so I think that would be a great springboard into our conversation, kind of lay the foundation for this entire podcast. And then we'll pick up in the coming weeks and we'll tackle a lot of these things in the coming weeks. And so the first one is this. I've found that people give up on the good life because of what they believe about God. So if I believe something about God that's not true or have a misunderstanding of who God is, then I'll give up on God's purposes for my life. And the underlying thing of this whole conversation is spiritual. We believe that God created us and there's a plan for us and a purpose for us and that Jesus died for us. And we'll get into probably some more of that at various times. But the reality is I think so if I can get you to doubt God's goodness in your mind, and I can get you to disobey God's commands.
Yep.
So if God has a plan and a purpose and I get you to doubt that goodness, I can get you to give up on your purpose and then just do your own thing. And so I think that's really where we're at. And people abandon the good life that God has for them.
So what do you think contributes to people doubting God's goodness? Like, what do you think people experience that makes them to begin that journey of doubt?
Yeah, I think there's an array of things, and we'll kind of jump to number 2 here in a moment, but I really think things happen in life. And we look at, I've said before, that we can't look at our circumstances or can't look at our theology through the lens of our circumstances. We can't look at what we believe about God, theology. What we believe about God through the lens of what's happening to us. what we must do is we must look at what's happening to us through the lens of who God is, because he is, he always will be. And when we get that lens flipped, it upsets everything. Yeah. It upsets everything in life. And really what that starts with is number 2. So we said what they believe about God. And then the second one is how they feel about God. So if I can get you to feel a certain way, then I can get you to think a certain way.
Yep.
Then I can get you to live a certain way. And let's be honest, that's the enemy's tactics here. Yeah. And so usually to answer the question you ask, what I have found, and you see this in teenagers all the time, you see this in young kids. My 15-year-old leads a small group for his, of second graders. And what you'll find is something traumatic will happen. Something hurtful will happen. Even early in life, dad walks out. Dad's an alcoholic. Mom and dad get a divorce. We have kids in our church, man. They're here one week and with another parent, the other parent another week. And so they're only here a couple times a month. And that's a tough life.
That was me as a kid, yeah.
7 years old, 10 years old, you're battling that. And so now all these feelings, all these emotions, well, you got to process them some way. And if you don't process them healthy, you deal with what we call dysfunctional mindsets, and then you blame God. And now you develop a theology about God or a belief about God. And so the way you feel ultimately impacts the way you think, ultimately impacts the way you behave, ultimately leads you to the cultural lies that we'll get into in later episodes.
Absolutely.
So that's really, I think, to answer your question, what it does. So the third one is this, and then maybe we can talk about this. This is one that I really feel like, because I have wrong views about God, I feel a certain way about God because of my trauma or circumstances. And here's the one that I think is similar but different. What you believe about yourself. So if I don't believe I'm good enough, if I don't believe I have intrinsic value, if I don't believe, that God has a plan and a purpose for me, or I've done too much, or people have said things about me, now I believe, or I take on this identity that causes me to look for hope in all the wrong places.
Yeah.
And so as we springboard into this, we'll talk about more of it next week, but what'll happen is people learn to accept what people say they are, who they say they are, what they feel, maybe their preferences in life. It could be their sexual identity. It could be their desires. It could be what they believed that mom and dad said, or something culture's told them.
People are saying, and that we're living in a time right now where you have voices accessible to you all 24/7.
Yep.
I would do something stupid in school, and I can go home, and 2 days later, people forget about it.
Yep.
But today, you do something stupid in school, and it's on internet, and it lives forever.
Yeah, and I think if you just take and play that thing out through social media and various things, I can also do nothing wrong, have nothing happen to me, but then look at someone else's social media profile and feel less than.
Yep.
And so now I'm not as good as
I want that life.
So I have a comparison. So I don't have what they have. I don't have. And listen, that's everybody's highlight reel. We know that. People said that before. So here it is in review before we kind of close this episode, and we'll pick up here in the next episode. Here's what I think. What they believe about God. If I can get you to believe something, I can get you to behave a certain way. I can get you to abandon the truth of God's word. How you feel about God. If I can get you to feel a certain way, then I can get you to think a certain way. And then ultimately, if I can get you to believe that you have no intrinsic value, or you've messed up, or you're not good enough, ultimately, I can get you to give up on the good life. Wow. So that's where we're headed. And I think probably everything we talk about, maybe we'll have some fun along the way, but it'll springboard from these basic 3 thoughts. So anything you want to add?
No, man, I think you covered the bases. It's so good. A lot to process, and really challenges me. I hope it challenges our listeners, our viewers, on what we're doing as we're looking for the good life. How are we? I need to do a self-evaluation. What do I believe about God? How am I comparing my life to other people? Am I content where I'm at right now?
Yeah, and I think some of the things that you'll go into your workplace or your school or the culture we live in, and you'll be faced with, like, how do I tell people about this? And we want to give you some nuggets in these podcasts to help you just kind of learn to think differently. But also, you can like and subscribe to all of these on all the different platforms, and then you can share these on your social media, share them with your friend. It'll help maybe start conversations with people who are searching. So. Hey, it's been great kicking this off. I can't wait for week 2. Next week is gonna probably get us canceled pretty quickly right out of the gate. So it's gonna be fire. So we'll see you guys soon.